Oh, this is so annoying. These Texans press conferences. I am trying to get one thing together. Look, Texans beat the Bengals yesterday. It was freaking awesome. The Texans, I don't want to call them cardiac kids because sometimes cardiac kids means that teams win in improbable fashions, whereas CJ Stroud has won and kind of clinch some of these victories in improbable by human being standards, but not improbable by really good quarterback standards. So I don't want to call them the cardiac kids. They do find a way to make it super interesting and very, very stressful, but it's not in such a way that like they're required that they're getting lucky breaks or blocking a field goal and running it back, or they need to score a 2-point conversion all the time. They're doing it in relatively conventional, unbelievable fashion. So I want to go over I want to watch CJ Stroud's post game because I haven't had a chance to watch the entire CJ Stroud post game. And I would like to also watch DeMeco's post game. I also want to look at Sheldon Rankins' sacks, and I want to take all of your guys' questions. So we're gonna, at the risk of not being able to hear any of the questions, I don't have the transcripts or anything. Life of Colby, you are first. Good job. Happy Victory Monday indeed. Bringing the pain on a Victory Monday. And so proud of me, which makes me proud of you for being proud of me, because positive reinforcement is key, everybody. I feel like DeMeco would never let somebody go through this life without giving them some positive reinforcement. So let's get CJ pulled up here. The other thing about this press conference was that it was like super dark lighting, kind of like foreboding and ominous. I didn't like it. I'm going to share this screen. I'm going to share this, and you guys are going to tell me whether we get the audio or not. If we don't get the audio, I'm going to flip out in 18 different ways. So we're sharing. Okay. I'm going to do a little intro here so it's easier to cut up later on, as I've been more disciplined doing. If you guys noticed, I think I credit the good influence of CJ Stroud and his wise and mature beyond his years demeanor. Makes me feel guilty for being 48 years old and relatively incapable. Probably absolutely horrible also on the S2 cognition. One quick note. The Acknowledge Me is the best segment on Houston Talk Radio, by the way. Thank you, Life of Colby. We're proud of that because it's good feedback, more positive feedback from you to us, because there are a few people that don't like the Roman Reigns Acknowledge Me. It is a bit jarring until you get used to it. We just need to keep reinforcing that dopamine hit of, hey, Texans victory, Rockets victory, Dynamo victory, Astros have a manager who's younger than 80, I guess. I love Dusty. That's not a shot at Dusty. I love Dusty Baker, and I appreciate everything he did for us. Okay, tell me if you hear the audio on this, and I do have one backup plan in case it doesn't work. I've got a plan. Okay, I've got a plan.
Win the game, the way you guys did, how much is that a confidence builder? I know you guys already have confidence, but to do it again, to win in this fashion.
Yeah, man, all glory and praise of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. This is a great opportunity and a hard-fought game. And these type of games come down to the last minute. I mean, it's hard to win in the NFL. It's a great Bengals team over there. They proved it week in and week out. But I think we came in with a mindset that we won't be denied. And that was huge for us. We fought until the end. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't how we would draw it out. But, I mean, that's what this league is about, those tough wins. So all glory goes to God, man. And I'm super blessed to be able on this Texas team and play with my teammates. Man, I love my teammates to death. But no doubt that everything was in our favor going into that last drive. We knew that we can go down and get a field goal or score. So it was a blessing to pull out the dub.
I think that's one thing, like the confidence. Man, it takes a lot of balls to have confidence when nobody else has confidence in you. And it's not like people didn't have confidence in CJ, but on the team as a whole, I'm going to credit Jimmy Ward and a few of the other veterans for drilling it, or at least reinforcing with CJ that it's okay, even though you're a young guy, to be vocal. And remember in the first game, Jimmy Ward had noticed, like, man, it seemed kind of quiet on the sideline. And I think that's natural when you've got a bunch of young guys that are supposed to be your leaders, and B, guys that are just new to the team. And Jimmy said it himself, like, man, I don't know how much to speak up. It's kind of weird when you're new on a team, like how much to impose your veteran status. So like those guys have consciously talked about that, and they had the confidence, I think, in themselves before they'd necessarily shown evidence that they should have it. So life lesson.
At some point, you can't say, "We got you. We have this." When did you say it to him, and where does that level of belief come from? Because, like you said, it's hard to do this in the NFL.
Somebody had said that CJ said, "We got this," and so Greg Bailey asked, "Where's that come from? The confidence?"
Yeah, man, it was after I threw the interception. I think they had scored, and I let them know, man, like, I got your back. Like, I know I made a mistake, but that one play doesn't define me, and I'm gonna go prove myself again. And I think we had a great day offensively, ran the ball really well, threw the ball really well, but those last 4-minute drills, man, I got to be better. I can't turn the ball over right there, but it's all about toughness in this league, how tough you are. I took a lot of big hits this game and things like that, but my O-line, they fought the tail off. I think that's where we won the game, was our O-line. We handled 91. I was on our keys of victory. He's a heck of a player. LT was sitting on that guy and had a great game. And then our receivers ran great routes. The rest of my O-line blocked their tail off. And Motor, man, like Motor and I'm tripping, and MB, man.
He's just like me. He can't remember names of people he knows really well. Laramie Tunsil. Look, I I got to go back and watch the All-22. Hendrickson is a good ass pass rusher. So I'm like Laramie Tunsil had some really good plays that I did notice. He also had a couple rust snaps versus Hendrickson. It's one of the reasons CJ had to run around a little bit. But I'm curious about how much they left Tunsil on an island versus Hendrickson so they could slide and help everybody else out. And I think there was a good amount of that. CJ did have to use his legs a lot. I think the offensive line really showed up in two areas. One, pass protection versus the blitz. Did you notice the one play? I was so scared. Titus Howard was like turning around, pointing out a backer or something like right before the snap. And like, lo and behold, they all figured it out. They got it all sorted out. And CJ still had to get rid of the ball pretty quickly. But they did a good job versus Lou Anarumo. Remember that defensive coordinator? He throws the kitchen sink at not just the quarterback, but the offensive line. I thought they did a pretty good job of adjusting to that. And then obviously in the run blocking, this is the first time I really felt like, oh, okay, the defense has to sit back in coverage because they're worried about the pass game. And now the offensive line and the running backs are taking advantage of it. For those of you who don't know the nicknames, Motor is Devin Singletary, and Boone, who I keep calling Aaron Boone. CJ can't remember his name. I call him Aaron Boone. Sorry, Mike Boone.
They were the focus point of this game, man. We needed them big time, and they've been in tough games like this. Motor being with the Bills, and then MB being with the Cowboys. They know how hard it is to win in an environment like that. So we lean on them guys, and they make plays.
Coach talked about having calm in the chaos. How do you find that, or
He said, CJ, Coach talked about how you have a calm in the chaos. How do you find that?
For me, I mean, it's a lot of prayer, a lot of just knowing that, man, God wouldn't put anything on me that I can't handle. I don't deserve His grace and His mercy, but He still gives it to me, and I love Him for that. Because I mean, it's not about me; it's about Him, and His glory. So I think that's where it comes from. I think God made me like that. I've been through a lot, not only in football, but things that made me just kind of chill during when everything's going crazy. And I thank God for putting that on me, because that's something that put that in me. Excuse me, because that's something that you need playing in this position in this league. That defense over there, they didn't blink, even though they were giving up big plays and things like that. They knew that it would come down to the wire. We knew that too. And I just went to DeMeco and let him know, man, I got you. We're going to win this game. And he looked me right in the eye and said, I trust you. So it's amazing to have trust in your head coach. And I'm a rookie, and my OC, Bobby, man. Like, I think Bobby, we need to give him his flowers. He called a great game again, leaned on his players and took risk. And I appreciate him for even doing that.
The one thing about the CJ who addressed coughing the ball up there on that bad interception, my one thought on that, because I know a lot of people were angry after the game for either the play calling, and I think CJ's in that mode right now where people would rather be mad at Bobby Slowick than CJ Stroud. It's like it's 3rd and 3. If they'd run the ball and they hadn't gotten it, I think a lot of people would have been upset that Bobby Slowick hadn't put it in CJ's hand. CJ, like he says himself, he can't throw that interception. Like he knows he can't throw that interception. Just keep the clock running. The one area, the next third down, that's the one I'd have a question about when they went deep to Tank Dell. When in that instance, I'd rather run clock down and then punt than take that shot. Obviously, it ultimately all worked out, but I felt like it was a little bit of maybe rookiness in both CJ and Bobby Slowick, and I have zero issues with it because veteran quarterbacks, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, those guys they do it at times. Like he's got 2 interceptions on the entire year, 2 interceptions, and he made up for it. Like he had a field goal drive, and shout out to Matt and Mandola for that field goal drive.
How long did it take you to snap back in and say we still got
Cam made a hell of a play. I've been playing against him since college and have a lot of respect for that guy. He's really
He's asked about the interception.
smart. We ran that play the drive before we got a big completion. So he told me too. I talked to him and he was like, "Man, I knew it was coming." So we undercut it. Their defensive end played upfield, and I had to step up in the pocket and I didn't want to take a sack. So I tried to like lay it over him and he looked up right when I threw it and he picked it and it was a heck of a play. Tank probably almost saved the day right there, which is giving our defense a blade of grass to stand on. But I mean, it's something I can't do in the future, but it's a great learning experience, especially to come out with a dub with that.
and then did you just immediately
Also, shout out to Tyler Boyd.
throw it away?
I mean, I was a little upset and like, dang, like, but at the end of the day, what is that going to do? I mean, it's not going to do anything for me. I have to move on to the next play. And I mean, I had such a great game at that point. Like, man, I had a lot of great plays instead of that negative play. I can't just harp on that one negative play and go back to what I was doing. And the next drive, probably put the ball in my hands and we made plays.
Yeah, I remember you told me you enjoyed.
Actually, I had a conversation with my wife during the game about like stupid mistakes. My wife is a really good athlete. We talked about like why you make stupid mistakes, and I think at least part of it is that so much of it in sports is that you're just operating on reaction, and at the same time your heart rate's really high. You know, there's all those studies that show how bad your decision making is once your heart rate gets above a certain level. I think you just don't notice. You don't notice how dumb you are when you're playing because so many things. Like think about like in baseball, there's a lot of intelligent things you have to do that are just automatic because you've been through it so many times. Except for some Astros, some all-time legendary Astros who are otherwise intelligent guys who still sometimes make those mistakes on base running. But like CJ's got the right attitude about all this stuff. He's just so damn calm, cool, and collected.
Those games, I remember you used the term "walk into the trap, take over the trap." To win a ball game like this, you say, tender like this in a state that you used to play in, how satisfying is this?
It's a blessing, man.
He was asked about coming to Ohio, the state of Ohio, and playing in front of presumably a whole bunch of like CJ Stroud, Ohio State fans who are also Bengals fans.
You couldn't draw it any better. And I know it wasn't easy, but this is like that's what you want in the NFL. You want those hard wins because you want to be playing your best ball at this point. I mean, I think we're doing that. I think we're on the upscale. And to be back in Ohio, I got a lot of Buckeye love, and I appreciate everybody who was in support. And then a lot of Texans out here too. Like we showing up. So I really hope next week we play the Cardinals, man. Y'all pull up and we pack that thing out. Like I really want to see a sold out stadium. I think at this point, man, I think that's what we're ready for. And that juice that y'all bring, man, we play with 100% energy. And even in the negative light, coming to the away game, like you want to be the villain and you put on your mask, you ride with your brothers, and you go make plays. So it was a big win for us and got to build on this momentum.
Okay, this is another area where like CJ's more mature than me. I'm trying to figure this out. I've always had I get kind of nervous and uneasy about either athletes or coaches or radio hosts like asking fans to come out and like, hey, you guys got to come out and enjoy this leisure activity. Like you got to get out here and spend a lot of money and be excited about it. Okay. Can you be excited about it? And I don't know. I think part of it might be just kind of that like little innate fear of when you invite a bunch of people to a party, like what if nobody comes? Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm afraid for the ask. I do like there's a natural excitement about CJ. I think that it hasn't been that long since people were like amped up at NRG Stadium. It's just a matter of I think people like learning to trust it and believe in it. But I do wonder too. I hope CJ does understand what Houston sports are like in terms of actually being in their seats at kickoff. I think that's a generational thing. We got to figure out how to get people in sooner than later. But that's but it gets loud. CJ, trust us.
CJ, one thing Coach Lyons has said was that we don't care about the outside noise, but this game felt like a statement win for a young team that has believed in itself from jump, regardless of what anybody else.
So she said this felt like a statement win for this young team. I don't know if she asked the question or just made that statement. Yeah, she made a statement.
I mean, you can tune into what everybody else saying, but they're not in our shoes. We're the men in the arena. We're the one lacing it up, taking the hits, doing what we have to do to win. And it's a process throughout the week, man. I know, like, shout out to our families, man. Like, we put in a lot of work, and our families do a great job by supporting us in that way. So, I mean, I love my family. I know the rest of my teammates, they can say the same. So, it's just not us, man. It's the city of Houston behind us, our families behind us, the guys' kids, the wives, my family, my parents. Like, a lot of people are behind us in this thing, and I think we're proving a lot of people right who believe in us, and that's all that matters. So we're not trying to prove nobody wrong.
Okay, so you're going to hear this a lot from football players, and it's because it's a poem or a speech by Teddy Roosevelt that's been handed down like from generation to generation. I don't know, like Theodore Roosevelt, they might have mandated that people like football coaches start giving this speech back when Theodore Roosevelt kept football from being outlawed by making it safer. But basically, it's I'll just read the first few lines. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. It's a good speech. I'm not quite Theodore Roosevelt or Winston Churchill, but if you look up the man in the arena, and there's a good chance that that's actually like a poem that he's reciting or something.
I mean, they look me in the eyes.
Okay. Sarge asked, what are the offensive linemen doing in that situation? I just want to be sure that if he's talking about the actual last drive.
We're not trying to prove nobody wrong. I mean,
I don't know if that was Sarge or somebody else. So what are your offensive linemen doing in that game-winning drive?
they look me in the eyes and, man, I trust you with this moment. And that means a lot to me. From left to right, man, a lot of meaningful ball has been played on different teams. This team, like, I think they were saying, like, man, it was like 8 or 9 games last year that came down to the wire like that. And I think we lost every single one of them. So the hope that we have in 2-minute drill, like, that really goes to our coaching and just us being playmakers. We do 2-minute drills on Wednesday and Thursday. Just trying to get that down because, I mean, that's a lot of these games are 1 to 2 minute. So my linemen, we don't move without them, like I told you last week. The focus point of our team. So my linemen had a great game.
You mentioned, I think, a lot of things at Rockport training camp, and we're going to shock the world. You got 3 leads in the roster. What was it? What were you seeing from the team that made you really believe that?
He said you mentioned during training camp that you wanted to shock the world. What were you seeing from the team that made you believe that?
You guys going to be able to do great this year.
I would say, I mean, just the confidence off rip. And it wasn't built overnight. Like, this thing took a minute, a lot of moving parts. And, I mean, you see, I mean, we've been injured too, which hasn't been helpful. So these have been, like, the last couple of games we've actually been able to play at a capacity. Like, we're still missing a couple pieces.
Dude, the 23 people on the injury report.
Miss Nico today. Can't wait to get him back. But I think you can see, like, no matter who's up, man, we're next player mentality. That's what you have to do in this league. So and I think Michael Dieter has stepped in and done an amazing job. And I really appreciate him just being, like, not only a ball player, but being really, really vocal. Because coming into that point where JP was playing really well, it's hard to come in and that, you know. So I think this team from when OTA started, we built confidence.
I see discussion going on about CJ's flannel jacket. I'm guessing that's like a super expensive flannel jacket, shirt/jacket. I kind of like it. I don't know, man. I know you guys are hating on it, but that looks comfy as hell.
Yeah, Motor, he ran the ball really well. Like I said before, it starts up front. Those guys were moving. Those guys, that's a solid, really good D-line. Backers fill their gaps really well. And motor was making people miss. On top of that, we were getting to our second level defenders and moving around. So I think once we get the running game going, I mean, you can see the play action starts working, the drop back pass, everything. It makes my job a lot easier. So shout out to the running game, and we got to keep that going.
You know, one thing I think the silver lining in some of these injuries is that those first few weeks where everything felt disjointed with the run game, and it started to become pretty apparent, like, okay, we're going to have one set of plays for CJ and one set of plays for Singletary and one set of plays for Damian, or at least alter the play calling. It's hard for the offensive line to get in a rhythm like that. You know, maybe down the road somewhere you'd be able to be more versatile, but with Singletary being able to like that, yes, the blocking was really good. And, you know, credit CJ too for backing everybody off in coverage, but Singletary was really seeing the field well. There were a couple times where I was watching and I was trying to, you know, I'd go back and watch the replay and you'd break down like, okay, everybody's all blocked up. Here's the linebacker. Here's the safety that Singletary is going to have to make miss. And then you press play again and like Singletary cut back across the grain behind like two blockers and found more green grass. He had some nice little pieces of running that were really instinctive and just decisive. It was good to see.
All right, thank y'all. God bless.
All right, God bless. God bless. A couple questions here. Let me get DeMeco up before I. So when I go back and cut that up, I might do some video over it, just of some of those plays. If I can do it without YouTube striking me too much. And I don't know why the lighting was so bad in there last night. I saw, oh yeah, Sarge. Sarge was at the press conference, and where's DeMeco coming from? This is like a Taylor Swift concert or something. Watch him pop up. Wow. Hello, Coach. Let's see. I got to let's answer some of these questions. Oh, there's a lot of you here. Okay, NFL needs to put some respect on our city. Okay, yeah, some of these primetime games in the no urgency to flex them. I'm with you on that one. After the interview, could you give some thoughts on Skip Bayless saying CJ has better weapons than Bryce Young? I would gladly do that. I think, look, if did Nico Collins not have quarterbacks on this roster? Did was Tank Dell drafted in the first round? I kind of thought that if he was such an incredible prospect, size or no size, that somebody else could have drafted him. The Panthers perhaps could have drafted him, like instead of Jonathan Mingo. Was Mingo taken? Mingo was taken before Tank Dell, was he not? Gosh, Noah Brown. I mean, what are you going to do without Brandon Cooks when you got Noah freaking Brown catching 300 yards in the last two games? 300 yards in the last two games, where Noah Brown's career high is like 550 yards in a season. So there's that. And Dalton Schultz was anybody's for the taking. You know, he came to the Texans on a 1-year deal, and I like all those guys. And it's just the notion that somehow the people around Bryce Young and the defense that he has there is somehow inferior, and that's the reason that Bryce Young can't do anything. As long as Skip Bayless admits that he was wrong about assessing the talent, I suppose, preseason, then so be it. But beyond that, like whether it's CJ Stroud, whether it's Skip Bayless or Colin Cowherd or whomever else, like those are just flyby opinions. One quick question here. He said, "Is Matt Amendola Danny's brother?" Ethan, who's a troublemaker, lies and says yes, Matt is Danny's brother. No, they spell it differently. And Matt is from. I used to know where he's from. Now I don't know where he's from. But they're not brothers, and only one of them is from the Woodlands. Seth is hustling. He was on the pregame show, recorded game reactions on TV, then loaded video at 2 a.m. I will not sleep. I will not sleep because I'm honestly way too excited about things that are happening with this football team. I want to watch some of these other games, but I'd rather go back and rewatch the Texans. Like, I'm waiting for the All-22 to come out. I've been wrong about it. I might do an episode where I talk about what I'm wrong about. If I have enough time today, I've got my I've quit working at my Will Anderson cut-ups. I'm just going to play it and run through and see what I can edit it into later. There's just so many guys I'm excited about on this team. And it starts with DeMeco. It extends on into CJ, obviously. But Tank Dell, Nico Collins, all these guys. Dalton Schultz, I was skeptical of, up to a few weeks ago. And the cool thing to see is, yesterday's run game was versus a very bad run defense. So I don't want to act like, with that one game they've arrived. But Texans have faced bad run defenses already this season and not really looked all that good. They've had over 100 yards rushing a couple times, but it was because of volume, not because of anything that looked like it was firing on all cylinders. So yesterday, even though it was versus a bad run defense, and I think the run defense had been better than the stats would suggest, although I guess maybe I was proven wrong last night. That was progress. That was a lot of progress. So I'm excited about these guys, and I'm excited about some of the guys on the offensive line. All right, you guys have a lot of good comments in here. I'm going to get to DeMeco's press conference, and I want to look at Sheldon Rankins' sacks. 3 sacks and then 1 almost sack, a near sack. So he had 3 sacks, plus he had a tackle for like a 1 or 2 yard gain. I didn't get the other Malik Collins body slamming. Malik Collins body slamming. How do I hide this current comment? Malik Collins. Jesus, excuse my language. Sorry, I can't be taking the Lord's name in vain when CJ just basically gave me a sermon. Here is DeMeco Ryans, who looked like he was just putting that badass sweatshirt back on underneath the podium. Then he stood up.
First off, credit Cincinnati, really good football team. And can't say enough how good those guys played, but so proud of our guys for finding a way to win, right? And that's what we talked about Saturday night, just whatever it takes, finish every snap. And I told the guys it comes down to the last snap. We still found a way to finish, so really proud of the way our guys fought, proud of the plays that they made, all right, to help us win that game. And of course, we got to play cleaner. A lot of mistakes that we made to even make that game close, but things we can clean up, and it's better to clean them up after a win.
He's given the old Jeff Van Gundy, do not ignore in victory what you would address in defeat. But I love that DeMeco just says all that coach stuff that you have to say, and it's true. But he says it without being grumpy about it. Sometimes coaches come in and they act like they're almost peeved that the game was won. They want to be sure that everybody knows that they're not complacent. I had a coach like that. You know what? I think Renard had one slamming Joe Mixon, but there was also Malik Collins slamming. It was as much as the officials were awful yesterday. It went both ways. There were some bad calls on both sides of it. I don't think Tank Dell's catch was a catch when his right hand came off the ball there. I think Malik Collins really should have been flagged for slamming Joe Burrow to the ground there. There were a few situations, and the Texans got hosed too. It was just bad officiating. Stepping out of bounds. The stepping out of bounds, that was ridiculous. These guys spend the whole entire game not understanding what a forward pass looks like. But then you're telling me you're just going to go ahead and when Roberts steps out of bounds 8 steps before he touches the ball that you notice that? It disgusts me. Back to DeMeco.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yes, and good point. Robert Woods, he didn't step out either. That's the other thing about not getting any respect from the broadcast. Even though we had Kevin Harlan and Trent Green, which was awesome. If that was a primetime game, the number of cameras and everything and the definition of the cameras, you would have been able to see for certain that heel was up. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's a chance in hell that heel was down over the line. Even if it was hovering, I don't even think it was hovering out of bounds. But that'll all change. They won. I
mean, to the way our team battled, I'm so proud of our team, excited for them to be in a tight football game versus a playoff football team and come up with a win. That's where we're headed as a team, right? And we're showing that we're a good team. We're showing that we can win tight games at the end of the game. So, I'm really proud of the way our guys battled.
Okay, another thing about the quality of victory. Sean and I were going over this morning. If you think about the teams that are currently in the playoff hunt or were at least at the time the Texans played them, like the quality of victory, they beat the Saints. They would, like, if the season ended today, the Saints would be in the playoffs, the Steelers would be in the playoffs, the Jaguars would be in the playoffs. The Bengals were in the playoffs until the Texans knocked them out. And then also, if you just look at it, I kind of had to remind myself of this. Yes, they're 5-4, but with a new coach and a rookie quarterback and a rookie offensive coordinator and a rookie center, as well as other issues in those first two games, they went 0-2, and they've been 5-2 in the last 7 games. 5-2 after dropping those first couple games. Like, that's I look, they've got a ways to go. There's still concerns, injury, but they did it with 23 guys on the injury report too.
You mentioned playing tight game. This is on the road. And, they got the crowd and everything else. You just got in the turnover and everything. The way your guys just sort of settled down at the end, just roll and just put it big.
Right. No one wavered. Right on our.
I think he just addressed the fact that they were on the road and there was a lot of adversity. Let me just back it up a little bit. So and I apologize about the lighting. That's the way it looked on YouTube.
You mentioned playing tight game. This is on the road. And, they got the crowd and everything else. You just got in the turnover and everything. The way your guys just sort of settled down at the end, just roll and just put it big.
Right. No one wavered. Right on our sideline. That's what I love. I love the resolve of our team. Everyone believed that we were going to win. Everyone put in the work and made the plays to help us win this game. But it starts with the confidence that you have to win these tight games, and also knowing that we got guys, CJ, the receivers, Noah stepping up, having a big game. Like, guys stepped up and made big plays. And none other than Motor, the way he ran the football today is our best rushing game this year. Credit to the O-line and Motor for the way he ran the football. It was impressive to see, and I love the way he finished all of his runs.
Did you guys notice? I noticed this in a minor way with a couple of his nice runs earlier in the season, but yesterday was the first time where I really got it, like, why Devin Singletary's nickname is Motor. Like, he's a machine. Like, he does not look like a dude who should be able to bowl people over the way he does at the ends of runs. And he does it in a weird way, kind of like Josh Allen, ironically enough, coming from Buffalo, where Josh Allen can get hit and it never really looks like he's getting hit. I feel like with Singletary, he delivers these blows and he lowers his shoulder, but it never looks like it's all that jarring to him, which is cool. Like, I feel like that's I do believe this. I believe that we're able to actually see who's injury prone and who's not. Like RG3, you could always tell whenever he would fall, he'd kind of fall awkwardly. And at some point it was going to end ugly for him multiple times. I feel like Singletary, I feel good about him in that regard.
Let's talk about CJ.
Yeah, yes, and Colby, his cuts are very, very nasty too.
Once he makes a mistake, it seems like he almost learns from it. As the game goes on, he gets better.
It's impressive to see.
He said CJ, once he makes mistakes, he seems to learn from them, and as the game goes on, he gets better. I've almost come to expect at least one ball in the dirt in the early parts of the game. In these last 2 weeks, it's ended up being really good. Like, okay, we got a shallow crosser. CJ's going to throw it into the dirt, and then it almost like jars him into it, and like the accuracy comes after that.
See a young kid, right, make mistakes and grow from it in the same game, right? And for us to be able to come out with a win after some mistakes that he made and still be able to win the game and learn from it. It's much better to correct that after a win than a loss. So really proud of CJ, and he let me know that, hey, we got you. After the interception, he let me know we got you. We're going to make a play, right, to help us win this game.
As far as that like mistake goes, like obviously quarterbacks do it all the time. It's just weird with CJ because I found it curious at the time that there were some questions about CJ, like how will he respond to losing potentially. You play at Ohio State where losing 2 games is a big deal. If and you lose 3 games in the season, or God forbid you don't make the playoffs or something, there's a lot of pressure on you. I felt like that's always a little bit overblown, unless it's a guy that really genuinely hasn't had adversity at any point. And it's like CJ's had to sit on the bench for so many, like both in high school and in college. You know, he sat on the bench like it's an underclass, and he's on the varsity, but he sat on the bench. So like he's had to learn to bide his time. He's had to learn a certain amount of humility. But he's also clearly had to learn how to come back from mistakes and issues. As far as like how would he rebound from interceptions, I think that's something that, man, I can't even think about Zach Wilson. Like, okay, Zach Wilson's an awful quarterback, but it's not because he's affected by throwing interceptions. I think it's pretty rare. I think that part of it's pretty rare. If anything, it's usually on quarterbacks. It's more the guys that aren't affected enough by throwing interceptions. I think it's not that common that there are guys, even bad quarterbacks, who are overly worried about throwing interceptions. And I don't think we have to worry about that with CJ. Oh, one thing about Dwayne, because we're talking about making mistakes. Dwayne had mentioned asking why we make mistakes is equivalent to asking why we're human. Dwayne, remember, it was my wife that asked that question. And it wasn't about mistakes specifically. It was like as an athlete, it's the really dumb mistakes that you make. Like, yes, we make mistakes in life all over the place, but there's times where like you make a mistake as an athlete that it really, like, you have no explanation for it. And it just feels so incredibly weird, like beyond what would happen in normal life. And that's where I think like it's high stress, physical fatigue, and anything done at high speed. You know, high stress, high speed environment, and anything done at high speed. And you have like extreme antagonistic. You have an extreme antagonist on the other side of you. So it's just curious. Like you do, everybody who's ever played sports, all of you have ever played sport, have done something that, like, I still think about a mistake I made in baseball, a base running mistake when I was in 4th grade. That was like one of the dumbest things ever. Like I just ran right through a stop sign at third base for no, like I have no idea why I did it. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't know.
DJ, other players, they mentioned that they felt this year they could shock the world. What was it about this team that made them believe that this year they could shock the world?
I think it's not about, for me, it's shocking the world. It's just about guys in our locker room believing in each other. That's all that matters. We really don't care what the outside world says. It's just about the men in this locker room believing in each other and going to prove it one snap at a time.
Joe, it's been next man up pretty much all season. For Matt to come in, replace Miami in a game like that, how big was he for field goals?
For sure. Matt stepped in and did an unbelievable job for us. Veteran kicker who's been there before, done it before. So happy to have him, right? And the confidence that we had in him in his range, and we got it in a good spot for him, and he nailed it, right? 3 field goals, and there to win the game winner after only being with us for a week. Credit to Matt. Proud of him for stepping in for us with us losing Emi.
Okay, so the setup to that field goal, Noah Brown, again, I cannot tell you how much I love these receivers. I love these guys. So Noah Brown catches it. 2 guys ready to tackle him right at that line where Matt Amendola's career high is. And the dude gets 10 more yards. He spins out of that tackle, goes in 3. It takes 3 more guys to tackle him. Noah Brown also had a key block on the Devin Singletary touchdown. The Tank Dell, we talk about toughness. My God. I mean, I know I talked about this last night, but Tank Dell getting hit like he did on a play that probably should have been a flag, like just getting up and coming back. I thought we lost him. I thought the guy was – I thought we might not see him for like 2 or 3 more weeks. I mean, Jamar Chase is a monster. He's huge. He almost didn't play yesterday because he just fell and his own body weight hit him. Like Tank Dell got just crushed in the back, goes out and probably peed blood or coughed up urine or something in the medical tent, and came back and played football the rest of the game. On his touchdown, he was a battering ram through there, took that real hard hit to the side. Like these wide receivers, I honestly, when somebody asked about how I feel about Skip Bayless saying that, CJ has better weapons than Bryce Young, I'm torn on how to answer it because I love these guys. I love this receiving core. And I'm growing to love Dalton Schultz. He had a nice block on that Amendola run too. But I don't want to discredit those guys while also pointing out that, man, before CJ Stroud arrived here, people were not saying these things about Nico Collins. If somebody could have predicted what Tank Dell was going to look like with CJ throwing him the ball, would they have drafted him in the first round? I think so. Like all these things that just it's blending together really, really well.
The confidence that the team have within themselves. How much of that starts with you though, and the confidence that you exude onto them?
It's about them, not me. It's all about these guys, all about the men in the locker room and the work that
Okay, I want to do that. I want to run that back a little bit because he asked. These guys are very confident. How much of that comes from you, DeMeco?
Not me. It's all about these guys, all about the men in the locker room and the work that they put in day after day that no one sees, right? They put in the work, and they came out here today, and they were the best team for 3 hours on Sunday, and that's all that matters.
I got to tell you this, though, man. And I know a lot of you heard this story before, but like it really, the part that's hard to explain about DeMeco and his ability to be so even-tempered and yet also still get super excited when good things happen and then dial it back and get his heart rate low. Like it just, he has a way about him. And I told you his rookie year, my last year in the NFL, the first day they elevated him to starter, he was in the huddle and he was having a hard time spitting the play call out. Not because he was nervous or anything. I think it was a big play call and he wasn't spitting it out. And I kind of yelled at him and swore at him, said something like, "Get the bleeping play out," because I was a crusty old angry veteran and I didn't like rookies starting as early as they did. And CJ kind of he gave me this calming look that honestly made me feel like my grandfather was not scolding me, but just kind of calming me down, like he was a lion tamer or something. And from that day forward, and then just watching him the way he played, I was I had to stop myself from calling him sir because he's just that much of a presence, and it's just hard to explain. So I do think a lot of guys' ability to show that confidence, like in a very high stress world of football, where a lot of times guys have reasons to doubt themselves or are fixated on doubting themselves. I think he's got a way of just really bringing out the best in guys. Like Lenore, the cornerback for the 49ers last year. Remember the story they told during the playoffs where CJ basically told Lenore, "Hey, look, they're targeting you. Okay, but don't look at that as a burden to bear or like that you're the issue. Look at that as an opportunity." I go, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of opportunities for interceptions this year." And Lenore in the playoffs. Lenore ended up having a big interception in the divisional round last year.
The confidence and the belief it takes to win games like this, was that here when you got there, or did it take a little bit of time?
It takes time.
So he said, was the confidence here when you got? Was the confidence there when you got here, or does that take time?
The confidence and the belief it takes to win games like this, was that here when you got there, or did it take a little bit of time?
It takes time. The confidence comes from the men, right? It comes from, first off, starting with the quarterback position. And the confidence, I think, that CJ has given to our entire, not only team, but our entire organization. You want to win tight games, you got to have a quarterback who can make those big-time plays to put you in position to win games. So it starts there with him.
What you said about in the crunch time, to find a couple minutes, he can just allow it to.
Yeah, the thing about CJ is just it's the calmness in the chaos, right? He doesn't waver. He's confident that he's going to make plays, and the moment isn't too big for him.
I'll tell you that's all right. I'll tell you honestly, I've had football coaches, teachers, me as a parent,
Playing well,
Okay,
right?
let
For
me
the
get
past couple of weeks, they've been playing. And, he was dealing with issues all week, but guys, the offense operated really well, with the clock.
Process on the timeouts, because he had 3 timeouts, 2 minutes.
Right, the pressure that he got today, consistent pressure on the pocket under the big lights before the bright lights.
How rare is that when we talk about being calm in chaos for a rookie?
So the calm and the chaos part, right?
Has given to our entire,
Okay.
not only team, but our entire organization. You want to win tight games, you got to have a quarterback who can make those big-time plays to put you in position to win games. So it starts there with him.
What you said about in the crunch time, to find a
Okay, this is the one.
Yeah, the thing about CJ is just it's the calmness in the chaos, right? He doesn't waver. He's confident that he's going to make plays, and the moment isn't too big for him.
Okay, so like that calmness in the chaos. I've had a lot of coaches or quarterbacks or just me as a parent that adds to a situation like that. I read this in a book once. It was like a Buddhist monk who said this. That no, it wasn't. It was Brene Brown. So it was Brene Brown or a Buddhist monk, one of the two. It was either a monk from Thailand or Brene Brown from Houston. But it was think about like how often the person who's saying calm down is not calm at all. Like, especially when you're a parent, you're like, calm down. Like, that's the worst possible thing that you can do to try to calm down a situation. So much of it just does come down to demeanor. I remember now I was reading two books simultaneously. I was reading a Brene Brown book where she made the point that a lot of times the person that says calm down is like the least calm person in the room. And then this Buddhist monk, I'll think of his name and I'll link it below, who said that sometimes the best thing you can do is to do nothing, to just be there, like to be somebody that isn't doing anything at all and lets people know that you can just relax a little bit. Like that's that sense I get from both CJ and DeMeco. There's just zero panic in them. And when those are the leaders of your team, like guys don't in these last minute situations, man, when guys get tense, like when I played for Coughlin, that was when Coughlin was at his tensest. And ultimately, it was like every year where we would fail the final playoff game that we might get rolled out of, guys were making mistakes in big situations. And I think there was just this fear of failure and this tension that you felt from the top coming down. It's the opposite of what you get with DeMeco. And it's not a coincidence that when Coughlin learned to calm down a little bit when he was up in New York, mostly because he realized he was probably going to get fired, so he might as well just start having some fun with it. All of a sudden, like, good things started happening. So just calm down, everybody.
How rare is that when we talk about being calm in chaos for a rookie quarterback to be able to still stand in the pocket and deliver throws without hesitation?
So she asked, how hard is it to find a rookie quarterback who can be calm in the chaos like that?
For CJ, the calmness starts for him. Like he's played in a lot of big games at Ohio State. He's been under the big lights before, the bright lights, and he's made big plays. So he doesn't get wide-eyed when the moment comes, right? He understands that, hey, I know within myself I believe, and I believe in my teammates, I believe in myself, I believe in the O-line that's protecting me. I know I'm going to make plays. It was awesome having Rankins.
Okay, so he's asked about Sheldon Rankins' performance. And I think he talks about the offensive line coming up here. I am looking forward to looking at the All-22 and watching Laramie Tunsil. Look, Laramie Tunsil got beat by Hendrickson a couple times. Like, Hendrickson's really, really good. I think they were leaving Laramie out on an island versus him. Like, that's why you pay those guys, is that, man, if you can leave that guy, if you can leave somebody out on an island with one of the best pass rushers in the league, then that allows you to do a whole lot of other things. Helps you help out the other offensive linemen, allows you to get running backs out on routes. So I want to watch and see, because I know like it looked bad a couple times, and they were like, he needs to be better. But like, you're not going to go into a game and bat 1,000 versus Trey Hendrickson.
It was awesome having Rankins back, and you see what Rankins can do for us, right? The pressure that he got today, consistent pressure on the pocket, and for him to get 3 sacks, a huge game for him. Happy to have him back.
To see the results, to see what is out there, what is that like for you to put the tail on the offense?
I think the question was just, what's it like to see this team get the results?
Whatever has happened in the past. We're the 2023 Texans, and we're moving forward.
DeMeco, what's the thought process on the timeouts? Because you had 3 timeouts, 2 minutes, $3.
Oh, okay. Let me tell you something. All right. I appreciate this about DeMeco. I've seen situations, and I've been on at least one team where a new coach comes in, and honestly, I think it's what was happening out in Denver this year. It's that, like, the new coach can't help but start bashing the previous coach or start talking about the culture and almost like acting like, well, my crap doesn't stink. And it like that can create a lot of resentment. That can create a whole lot of like almost a divisiveness between the holdovers and the new guys. And because in the NFL, like DeMeco's seen it. Nobody's perfect. Every really good coach has flaws. Every bad coach has merit. And like DeMeco, again, this goes into just keeping the main thing and staying focused on what's in front of you. I haven't seen any part of him or anybody on his staff or anything that's talked about like, well, it was a mess because of this or it was a mess because of that. Ultimately, when you say that, it becomes an excuse. Like you're just making an excuse. You're saying, woe is me. Oh, I'm such a great coach, but woe is me. Oh, the culture. Like, yeah, fix it.
Especially when you call the 1 at the 30-second mark. Was that something in the back of your mind that y'all probably get the ball and make that drive and just get to it within?
Yeah,
He's asked about clock management.
definitely thought process is just being able to get in the field goal range there, give us time. And I think, guys, the offense operated really well with the clock management piece there. Everybody did an excellent job. Yeah, it was Derek is his first game back. Right? I think it's Derek is getting back into it. Didn't want to just put him back out there his first game and have him play however many 60-plus snaps. Right? So it wouldn't be fair to Derek. So for Steven, he was dealing with issues all week, but he battled through, right? Pushed through the game today, and I think we had a healthy balance of mixing both of their guys in.
Yeah, I think credit to DeMeco. I think, look, they've got health issues on the back end. They've got some coverage issues, although I'm including the linebackers in this. Cashman's been awesome. He's been a revelation. But Christian Harris these last few weeks, I don't know if you've noticed, he's made so many sound tackles. I get so excited when I see him come up and break up a pass because he's had a few PBUs in the last couple of weeks. But man, he's hitting stuff at the right angle. Like all of the DeMeco part of it, I think the coaching, the day in, day out reinforcement and stressing on taking the right angles, understanding your responsibilities. It's really starting to show up with him. So Christian Harris, I'm more excited about him right now than I thought I was going to be. If you had asked me in week 1 how I thought Christian Harris was going to be playing in week 10, he's a lot better right now. And I think that's really cool to see. That's really, really good to see.
Coach, a lot of closing stories, DJ. Coach, the offensive line doesn't get a lot of credit throughout the week as far as making the highlight films and things like that. Can you just talk about the job that they did today?
Our O-line has been playing well. All right, for the past couple of weeks, they've been playing well, and it's even more evident today at how they were moving the defense off the line of scrimmage, and we were able to create lanes for Motor to hit. So our O-line has done a great job protecting, especially in these last drives, the 2-minute moments, right? When you need the protection most, they've stepped up. CJ is able to be comfortable in the pocket because of, right, the protection by our O-line. So all those guys have done a great job, and even though they don't get highlighted, I always make sure I highlight the big guys. They definitely deserve it.
I feel like when you run the ball as well as they did, when your running back has 150 yards, when you average 5.5 yards per carry, they were spreading it out between the pass and the run. The distribution on first down was actually pretty even, at least the last time I had checked at some point in the third quarter. And there was no reason to complain about it because they were gaining yardage in chunks. And my God, did you see? I know I did this last night, but the chunk plays, if you look at all the receivers and the running backs, okay, Devin Singletary, long run, 22 yards. Long run for Xavier Hutchinson, 17 yards. Long run for Tank Dell, 13 yards. You look at, and CJ had an 8-yard run too, obviously, for the touchdown. The long reception for Noah Brown, 34 yards. Long reception for Dalton Schultz, 25 yards. Tank Dell, 17-yard reception. John Mechie, 19-yard reception that just touched to the left sideline there. Robert Woods, 15-yard reception. Devin Singletary, as a running back, had an 11-yard reception. And Mike Boone had a 4-yard reception. He had two receptions for 6 yards. So like that part, their ability to push the ball downfield, whenever somebody tries to bring up CJ's completion percentage to you, just counter with these two things: his yards per attempt and his interception rate. Like he's pushing the ball downfield to an extreme degree. He went into this game with the 3rd highest yards per attempt. I'm guessing it's going to be higher after this week because that game he was 9.1 yards per attempt. So I think that like the fact that he's able to do that without throwing interceptions is pretty freakishly good. And if you watch the games, you know that the accuracy obviously is not an issue.
You mentioned that you wanted to see the team handle success better. What about today's show? How they handled success from last week?
Right. This week,
Oh, okay. He was asked, what about today showed that they handled the success from last week's victory?
it showed throughout how we prepared and practiced. Like, no one was feeling themselves. No one got the big head throughout the week. Everybody just worked in silence as we should work. And the preparation was the same. And I want the guys to have that same desperation as after a loss. Right? How do you feel after a win? And we had that preparation. We had the right mindset throughout the week, and it showed on today. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach. All right. I'm going to take a few questions, and then I'm going to look at I want to look at Singleton. Why do I keep wanting to say John Singleton in the worst way for Sheldon Rankins? Either because of the baseball player or the filmmaker. I'm fixated on John Singleton. So Sheldon Rankins 3 sacks. I cut up the videos from that. Let me add that up there so I don't forget. Ooh, look at that. The question is, do I want to? I might show it on the screen so I can point some things out, but sometimes that gets glitchy. So let me try this, and then I'll take some questions, I promise. I'm going to bring Sheldon Rankins up on the screen, and we're going to experiment a little bit. To see if it's glitchy, if like it comes in, if it looks like it's just skipping all over the place with my fuchsia pointer. All right. Let me get down here. So let me tell you, and we won't do this right away. I just want to tell me if this looks glitchy to you guys. It won't look glitchy to me, so I won't be able to tell. Does that look like a nice amoeba sack there to you guys? Let's see. These live deals are just as much fun as winning. Thank you, Lori. CJ does not have a favorite target. That's true, Lamont. That's it's really nice. It's really cool. That's one thing about Robert Woods that was when Robert Woods got hurt. It's not like he'd been leaning really heavily on Robert Woods, but I wondered whether not having that security blanket on first downs was okay, cool, and that looks good. Awesome, thanks. Whether not having that security blanket for those easy first downs that they were churning out, and I say easy, but like Robert Woods was like working his butt off to get a little bit of separation on some of these comebacks and stops and curls and everything. And he didn't miss a beat. Nico Collins goes out. He doesn't miss a beat. Mike Martz said that he's never seen a rookie like CJ Stroud. I'm going to do that too. We're going to watch Mike Martz. I'll pull it up a little bit after this Sheldon Rankins. And, like obviously there's always excitement in the moment, but I think that Martz's point was with any rookie he's seen who's performed really well, he hasn't been able to do it in as many ways as CJ Stroud has done it. And including, I mean, gosh, it's kind of for people who are worried about his athleticism or his ability to improvise. And honestly, I'll say too, it's not like this is the most exciting thing. It's not like he's a really good athlete. It's not like he's super fast or anything. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but like when he runs, it doesn't look like, oh yeah, he's beating this guy to the edge. It's that he's very smart about when he runs. When he scrambles, he's just kind of got that sense he's developing and it's getting better. If you notice, like when he rolls out, he might have somebody in pursuit behind him, but he just sets his feet. This is one of my criticisms earlier in the year, was that sometimes it didn't look like he understood how much time he had. He fixed it. Like he'll run out. He knows he's got like 3 steps before that 300-pound defensive lineman hits him, and he plants his feet and he throws back across the grain to a tight end or what have you. Somebody else had brought this up too. Really good point by somebody that a lot of you had made, but Hackashek pointed it out. A lot of nose catches seem to be on scramble drills. He must be very good at reacting to the broken plays. I think there's that. And I think also, even when it's not a scramble drill, but it might be a little bit later in the down, I think he reads the coverage as well. I think he's got a really good sense for reading the coverage, knowing where the soft spot is. Because some of these times you can see him slicing across a zone and it doesn't look like a blown coverage as much as like just guys are late to recognize and shift. So, I mean, I'll credit, Slowick and Casario and whomever else was in on that decision-making process to maybe recognize that veteran savvy. I think that's where Robert Woods comes in handy too. I think sometimes people want to bring in veteran leaders, and the problem is, like, if you want a guy to be up there and be Winston Churchill, but he plays football like an old Winston Churchill because he's old and he sucks, there's not necessarily a whole lot of buy-in. So because these new guys, these kids, every 23-year-old kid on that team thinks he's the best thing that ever happened to the football team, So when you're like, you want some old veteran who's starting in front of this dude, and it's clear that he's not better than the young buck, then the young buck's not listening. So first and foremost, you got to actually be a good football player. And Robert Woods is still a good football player. Noah Brown's still a good football player. But then the leadership, I'm always intrigued more on the X's and O's side of it, the nuts and bolts, like actually working with guys, the guys who are willing to work on technique, to work on responsibilities, recognizing coverages, all that stuff. That's what I like. And I think that's what they did a great job with. I think Jimmy Ward is like a functionally smart football player who also feels an obligation to talk to players about it. Like, that's big. You gotta have it in you. You gotta be a guy that just wants to help out the younger guys. I think Robert Woods is very much that guy. I don't know if Noah Woods is old enough to feel like he's a mentor or anything, but he's a guy that pays attention and obviously is a smart football player. So they've done a really good job with that. They didn't just bring in a bunch of, frankly, when Kubiak first got here, I think there were a couple of veteran signings that were just guys that he or other coaches on the team might know and be comfortable with, but they weren't good football players anymore. And he figured that out over time. Will Anderson's going to get 2 sacks this week. He's going to catch Kyler running at the edge. I'm going to show you when we do Singleton sacks. And I'll do that. Man, you guys have a lot of comments. Let's do Singleton sacks. And what we'll do is, I want to point out on these sacks, he had some really nice rushes on these, but also, is that not showing this? Okay, I need to do a little differently. Oh, here we go. Now, move. Entire screen. Okay, there we go. All right. So the big thing about this is that he had some really nice rushes, but they were group efforts, like everything that Matt Burke's been talking about, and compressing the pocket, making it hard for guys to escape. If you get on the edge, then the quarterback flees up the center. Like, that all came into play here. So these last few weeks, they've had a bunch of sacks. Damn it. Did I say Singleton? Damn it. Thank you. It's John Singleton, filmmaker and baseball player. Okay. Sheldon Rankins. Sheldon Rankins had 3 sacks in this game. He's had some nice rushes before he got injured. Malik Collins has started to really come into his own again this year. I think John Grenard, obviously he's shown up with the sacks. I think Will Anderson is very close. It's a matter of these guys rushing the way they did yesterday. It's hard for defensive tackles to necessarily get a lot of sacks if the pocket's not being compressed. So watch Sheldon Rankins here, left defensive tackle. He takes on 2 dudes. He's the first guy there. He's got a hold of him, and credit his grip strength here, because there's nothing more frustrating, as we'll find out later, than having a hold of a quarterback. And we saw Burrow is strong, couldn't get away, had him by one arm. Kind of a letdown on the actual, when you don't get to actually get the guy on the ground. It feels like arresting Al Capone on tax evasion. It's no, I wanted to get him for the violent stuff. But so that one was kind of that was impressive, because he just powered up through 2 dudes. Watch this here. Okay, gets guards' hands off of him, wipes his guards' hands off, and then by the time he hits the center, where Malik Collins had kind of got the center going back on skates too, just destroys the center. And then really good grip strength there. Will Anderson like orbiting. Watch Will Anderson at the top here, like orbiting the scenario. That was good by everybody. Okay, so Malik Collins, left defensive tackle. Okay, right here. Little bit of shake. Sometimes that freezes the guard. And then watch what he does to this guard. Like just like a child. Knocks him back. Guard tries to recover. Rankins misses the sack the first time. Knocks the ball out on that one. He does have strong hands because he brings them down. Okay, so shakes him a little bit, humps back. I was watching Collins that time. All right, left defensive tackle. That part there at the end when you snatch him, like this is the great thing. So he bull rushes him here. It's like watch, he gets his hands inside. This is a really nice rush. Perfect hand placement. Right guard is rocked back, like, and you could just keep going with him there and bulldoze him, but the guy hops his feet back and tries to recover. And like this is just a really good field by Rankins to dump him right there. And then good hand-eye coordination, too, on getting that ball out. Right. Boop. And to hit a like, I don't know how these guys hit quarterbacks. Like, you're going to miss a lot of sacks when you're not allowed to hit a quarterback anywhere except like a very defined area, like you're playing laser tag with him. It's like you're playing laser tag and you have to hit that little disc or he's not dead. This one wasn't even a sack. It was just a nice play. Okay, so here he is, left defensive tackle. You remember what he did on that first play, right? Watch this one. Same thing, except just much more violent this time. Or on the second sack. Like right, like that poor right guard. that guard should feel worse about himself than Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd made a human physical error, but that right guard got destroyed by Sheldon Rankins, formerly John Singleton. All right. Let me de-share this. The stupid ass refs blew the fumble, play dead. We should beat the Cardinals. Hope we beat the Cardinals next week. Not going to lie, I've teared up a couple times with joy because they played well together, all three phases as a unit. Yes. Our Rockets just beat the Nuggets. Well, I mean, they did it yesterday, but yeah, it's pretty damn good. It's been a good it's been a good week for Houston sports because you have the Rockets, you have the Texans, you have the Aggies get a new coach, so you should be happy about that. It's not like your kids, it's not like your students are paying that. That's the 12th Man Foundation and all that. And I'm gonna try to go for the job myself, perhaps. George Fant, big time unsung hero of this season. Let me tell you something, Sean Weech or John Singleton, whatever your name is. George Fant has the nastiness and kind of the desperation and hunger that like he's the classic. If we had 22 coaches will say this, George, if we had 22 guys like you on this team, we'd win the Super Bowl every year. And that's not true, except that what they mean is like if we had 22 guys that like play their butts off and on screens, George Fant gets his ass out there and is like hustling like crazy. Those guys on the right side of the line there, I think those guys have a pretty good mentality. They're not as physically gifted as the guys on the left side, but I like the mentality and the nastiness and the scrappiness of the guys on the right side. Thank goodness Singleton hits better than that. Did I say it during the actual breakdown, even after you guys credited me? I don't know, man. All right, let's see. There was one more thing. Okay, you know what? Let's do the Will Anderson Will Anderson or John Singleton, whichever his name is. So Will Anderson didn't end up getting a sack yesterday. I want to bring up the Texans team stats just to be sure about something, because I don't want to discredit him for the actual. You know what? No, I'll actually do something different. I'm going to bring up Will Anderson's PFF stats, and don't worry, I'm not going to be talking about his grade, even though his grades on PFF are really good. I just don't think PFF's grades are actually the best indicator of how a player is doing. I think the grades for PFF sometimes are just, they do a good job of saying how well a guy is playing in his particular system, but a lot of times there will be like guys like offensive linemen will be like, there have been left tackles that play like that get help from a tight end or like a sixth offensive lineman all the time, so they never screw up, but they don't necessarily actually play good football. Whereas a guy like Dwayne Brown used to get this. Dwayne Brown would be left out on an island, so it's a higher level of difficulty, and so he'd get beat a few times. But meanwhile, these schlubs who like get help from tight ends and running backs and sixth offensive lineman all the time would be grading out as like the best offensive tackle in the league. So that's where I've always been skeptical of it. When it comes to like the counting stats, though, I do like it. I do like to sometimes compare this for pass rushers, because I think they do a pretty good job with the counting stats. As far as his actual grades go, they're just fine. But if we go to, let's see, I want to look up the team stats by position, passing pressure. So Will Anderson, pass rush grades, and hopefully stats. Oh, here's the pass rushing. Okay. So edge defenders. StreamYard sucking up all my data. Sheldon Leonard, get him stuck in your head. I don't know. George Fant, big time on Hung Zero. Oh, that's right. Sean Week said that. Week or John Singleton, whichever one it is. All right. So if we look at total pressures, I think Will Anderson is down here at 25th. If you look at win percentage, Will Anderson is 31st amongst rushers for win percentage. And like, I'm going to say this, like, this is where the ESPN win rate is different. And that's where these stats are sometimes just kind of, I don't trust them. I don't trust these stats because there's a certain human subjectivity. Like, I trust that the win percentage stuff and everything. I trust like the pressures for the most part. There's still subjectivity to that. Like, okay, did a guy actually pressure a passer or not? But like if you look at John Grenard, 25th in total number of pressures, Shaq Barrett, and then where did we say? Oh, where was Will Anderson? I thought I had him. It's an electrifying video I'm showing you guys, isn't it? Clowney's up there at 8th. Oh, yeah, Will Anderson, 25th. So Will Anderson, 25th, tied with John Grenard. That's why I got confused for total number of pressures. Like, I think that's probably accurate. The ESPN win rate stuff and the ESPN pressure rate, I think, is way more complimentary of those guys. But I think it's somewhere in between. I think I think what Pro Football Focus does is they look at it with more of a human eye. The ESPN win rate stuff is kind of GPS generated or computer generated based on how close somebody gets to the quarterback. And Will Anderson gets really close to the quarterback, but without necessarily having finished and come clean. So I think ESPN gives them a little bit much more credit for wins than they should. It's not a huge deal. It's just I'm going to show you a video here. Let's just get to the video. And the comparison I want to make is to Nick Bosa for a couple reasons. One is that obviously Nick Bosa plays in the same scheme. And two is that I think that, let's see, thumbnail, Will Anderson roundup, Will Anderson, son of a bitch. Don't tell me I did this. If I saved it as John Singleton, then I'm going to be really pissed. Let me show by size, sort by size. There we go. Will Anderson breakdown. Okay. We got it. We did it, fam. All right. Why 162 people stuck around through me piddling through? PFF is a CNN sports garbage. I think like any news organization or website, it takes a little bit of interpretation. Like, you got to analyze things, you know. PFF doesn't really know how to grade an attack front like ours. Yes. Okay. Very good point, Sean. I think especially when it comes to the run, like Sheldon Rankins and Malik Collins were graded as like the worst defensive tackles in the league for a while there. And I didn't see what they were looking at other than that. Yeah, if you're grading it strictly by like, okay, they have to stay in the gap, then why are they not in the gap? Okay, I get it. It's just it's not piddle on Seth. Yeah, it's not the be all end all by any stretch of the imagination. I should start a channel of just that, of me like showing concern over things. And you could play it over your desk at work. Let me see. Okay, let's see this. All right. Nick Bosa right here, left defensive end for the San Francisco 49ers. These are from last year when he's playing in DeMeco Ryan's defense. And I just wanted to show some of the similarities to Will Anderson's game. So I put together a pretty long cut here. A few of these are misplaced at the beginning just because I had to stash them somewhere. So that you'll see some repeats. But like, okay, Nick Bosa here, I just wanted to show how good he is at keeping his feet clean. I've seen a few of those scenarios out of Will Anderson. Here he is, left defensive end. What you're going to start to notice is something I want, and I hope Will Anderson works on in the offseason, which is he takes huge steps off the line of scrimmage, and then he's just nails with his hands. So, like, he's not absurdly fast like Micah Parsons, but he takes these huge steps. He gets like 4 yards. He covers like 4.5 yards with his first 3 steps. On this play, the offensive tackle jumps out to meet him. But then he's really good at getting around and then bending back towards the quarterback. It's right there, that last little motion that Will just isn't as refined at. The other thing that he does a good job of is, well, here he gets jumped, but he just does a really good job with his hands, bends the corner. Left defensive end here. Will kind of emulates his stance a little bit. The chips. So I know a lot of times people say, hey, Will Anderson's getting chipped a lot. He is, but so is John Grenard, and so is like Nick Bosa, however many sacks he had last year. Like, he gets chipped like a mofo a lot like that. What you'll see out of Bosa, and this is something that Will Anderson is starting to do a good job of, it barely affects him. He pops right back out, bends the corner, and Will Anderson's getting a lot of those this year where here was another chip, boom. That one affected him. And I think I put a few in here of Will Anderson just to show, or of Nick Bosa to show that, yeah, like, you got to remember these guys are, the vast majority of the time, they're getting blocked. Like, it's hard to get a sack. It's hard to get a pressure. So first sack he had this year, like, he has that bend. That was extreme bend. It actually kind of helped him that he was getting held on that. But there's some things that he does in the run game. Like, this is going to be in the run right here, where he just has a really good natural instinct and strength for keeping his balance. Up here, guy jumps to the outside. Will comes back underneath. Comes inside. He's like lethal coming inside. Like, really, really lethal when he comes inside. Like, he just almost doesn't change pace. That's when he looks like the Terminator. I think this is going to be an inside move. Boom. Just hit, balls out. Like, inside again, turns back up. Like, this stuff that he does on the inside, it's not the same as some guys who are good rushers on the inside, but just because they're really strong or really big. Like, he's not that big. He is really strong. But there's some of these things that I think he still can. It's easy to see how he can transfer it to the outside. He's just not as precise and crisp with it when he goes to the outside. Inside, just here's Nick Bosa up at the top. This is where I think we start seeing his big steps. But then comes back underneath, gets the guy going upfield, comes back underneath. DeMeco very excited. Nick Bosa happy. JJ Watt impressed as well. That was JJ's last game ever. So that was a little bit of an intro just with some of the things that he does well. So if we get into the run game and like watch Will in his hands, like his hands are perfect there. And he's still got the balance and strength. He keeps his shoulders square. Again, against the run, really good balance, really good power. Like we've seen a lot of that. This is him getting chipped, but like immediately going into a forklift. He's got that hand up. He's just like, he's so close with it right here. And he's really good. Like he wins a lot, but there's always like, there's opportunities downfield. Like this right here where he forklifts up, he's just got to be like a half step quicker with it at times where he would come completely clean. Left defensive end here. Mega chip plus a double team. Like that's a triple team right there. He's not going to win that. Like nobody would. Vicious chip. Still comes back around. Nick Bosa. Here's the big steps. All right. Boom. And this is something that I've seen out of Will. I've seen Will start to do it. Watch Bosa here. Like watch him slip the chip without ever really missing a stride. Like poop, ducks his hip. Just kind of hides out, knows that it's coming. Like right there. I mean, that's lazy by 10 too. But he understands that chip is there, and he kind of just, that's just a nice rush. I don't know if the chip would have mattered. This right there, this was a play that I put in partly because on the TV copy, everybody thought that Will was getting held, where I think this offensive tackle actually does a good job of keeping even with him. But this is a little bit of an example of like how he sometimes gets locked up. You see him shaking there first, but he's also kind of mindful of this chip block. So he avoids the chip, and then it's just a matter of just transferring back to the outside, and he's just not quite as crisp as Bosa is with it. Same thing. Does a good job of avoiding the chip there, then gets the hands off him, and then there he is. Like, that's a good rush. That's a good rush that might have been a complete pass. It just, like, the back end is not helping him out there. Chip, but he gets going into the forklift. Inside. I'm watching one of this. I made this way too long. That's what I did. I'm just like, look, he's really impressive there. I showed a replay on that one. Hold and a sack. Nick Bosa, I think he's on the right side here. I just want you to look at that first step. Like, this is what I think Will can do. 1, 2, 3. He covered 5 yards with those first 3 steps. Will on average is covering like 3.5 to 4. And I think in a lot of ways, they really do have a similar body type. Just Bosa's been a pure defensive end longer than Will has been. So he hasn't quite muscled up as much as Nick Bosa has. But like right there, it's not like Bosa has just blazed around the edge there, but he's so strong and he just gets that lean, and he got enough of those first 3 steps that he's able to just swallow him up. Like, those are just huge monster steps. And he doesn't even really, like, he doesn't even have to win with his hands there because he's able to get that lean into him. Yeah. Like he's got to dip at times. When I dip, you dip, we dip. 1, 2, 3 monster steps, and then come back underneath. And this is something that I think he's going to come back underneath on this too, because Will's done this really well a few times. Comes back underneath, gets him going up with those 3 big steps, and then comes back underneath. You can see here, like, watch him. Will just kind of stutter steps here. Like, he doesn't quite have the same. He doesn't have it grooved into his muscle memory yet the way Bosa does. He has like short, choppy steps, and then he tries to come back under. And Armstead's not, or now what's his name? Ramczyk. Ramczyk's not buying it. You know, he didn't believe the outside move, so he's able to kind of just swallow him up there. That backup came in, and Will, like, look at the forklift there. Like that dude respected the outside move, and Will came back underneath. So, like, some really good stuff out of Will so far. Like, and I see a lot of. Let's do one more. Yeah, there we go. So I see a lot of Nick Bosa and Will Anderson. It's just a matter of refining it a little bit. All right, here we go. Let's stop sharing, everybody. Get some questions here. Sean says, teach Anderson the TJ Watt inside move. Yeah, boy, his inside. The thing is, his inside, I think he's lethal going to the inside, and he has been at times this year already. It's just getting guys to genuinely respect his edge rush and to fear getting beat on the outside. That's when it's going to go to a whole nother level. I think right now, because the group has gotten more disciplined, that he's going to start seeing more success because they're not there's fewer times now where it's easy for the quarterback to step up into the pocket, and guys are getting flushed more. I think that's part of the reason the sack totals are going up. See, overall, I'm really happy with Will. I'm confident the sack numbers will come. Let's change Mr. Anderson's nickname to Neo. He's got that Matrix bend. I think the bend. I don't think he has to have, like, it's funny. Bend sometimes is tricky because, like, it's hard to. Sometimes I mistake bend for just like that smooth and lithe athleticism, where sometimes it's a matter of just it doesn't look as bendy if you're just using brute force to lean back into a guy. But I think he's got that ability to do it. All right, my voice is going to go, and I want to be sure I cut up some of these and put some film to it. The Will Anderson thing didn't work out the way I planned. I got too ambitious with it, so I'll probably do another one. I got to go back and do a couple of these. I'll do a couple of these most recent games where Will's had some good stuff. Yeah, I feel good about him. All right, awesome performance. I'm really looking forward to this week. I got to go. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'll do a reaction to the Kyler Murray. I'll do a reaction to the Kyler Murray game, the Cardinals game, and then I might do a John Singleton reaction video. Baseball, football, whatever. Thanks, everybody.